Hello and welcome back to the Two Podcast. I'm your host TB. I got my co-host, producer extraordinaire, everything in between, all the things. Jody. What's up, Jody?
What's good, bro? How you been?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm gassed. It's okay. I'm excited to talk football. That's what I am, for real. Super excited. First impressions, conference championship weekend. What'd you think?
Ooh, first impression. Which game do you want first? In order or?
Whichever one you want, bro. Just like first things that come to mind. What are you thinking?
Mm, I'll go one word. I'll say dud.
Mm, mm, man. I mean, I think it was better than the divisional round, but yeah, Niners Eagles, not a very good game.
Yeah.
Chiefs Bengals though lived up to the billing. So, I
Hmm.
think at least we got the one really really good game, and that was the first really good game we really had pretty much since the wild card round, right? I mean, that was the
Yeah.
game.
Since that Jags game.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, this playoffs not nearly as exciting as it seems like the last couple playoff have been. So, I think well, hopefully though we're gonna get a really good Super Bowl, and obviously we'll get there. But I do think it's a pretty fun matchup with the teams that we have playing in the Super Bowl. So hopefully this means it's all worth it, and we're gonna get this great Super Bowl Sunday. Um, we can only hope, right? But let's get to some awards, right?
Let's do
AFC
it.
and NFC Championship Conference weekend. Let's get to the awards. Let's get to it, bro. What you got first?
All right. So the first award we always like rolling out. We got the Tukwa Gamer of the Week. My guy I chose this week. I went Isaiah Pacheco from the Chiefs. He looking at the numbers, he actually really didn't do all too much, but from what I saw in the game, like that wowed me. You know what I mean? He was
Mhm.
he was running with power, bro. Like he couldn't get. He was like looking like Debo, if I'm being honest. Just a little bit shorter, maybe, and a lot lighter. But no, yeah, he was running with power. Took multiple dudes to stop this guy. He wasn't getting down on the first contact, and he finished 10 carries, 26 yards, 5 catches, 59 yards. But I just liked the way he was running with the ball. And that's what ultimately came down for me to pick him this week for that.
Love it, bro. Isaiah Pacheco is a dog. 7th round pick out of Rutgers. Runs really hard. Runs with a chip on his shoulder. Just
That's for
love to
sure.
see it. My Gamer of the Week award, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's really taking low hanging fruit, but this dude is the best quarterback in the league for a reason. I think we do this thing with the best players in all of our sports where we love them on their rise when they're the young, new thing, but then we turn around and we find ways to poke holes in their greatness once we've collectively decided that they're great, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you're not new anymore, you're not shiny, you're now the standard, and now we're going to try and poke holes in that standard to prop other guys up. And I thought it was funny when people are talking about Allen or Burrow or even Herbert as the best quarterback in the league this year at different times. And no disrespect, those guys are all great talents, but I still think they're all a level below Mahomes at this point. And he proved it again in this game. Like bum ankle, there is no Tyreek Hill. Juju, Kadarius Tony, Miko all get hurt and go out during this game. Kelsey's playing with a bad back from the jump the whole game. They don't even know if he's going to play like 2 hours before the game until he
Yeah, that was
shows
wild.
up and he's active. And the Bengals defense has had his number. He's 0-3 against that group since Bro got there. And you got Burrow on the other side, who's been playing really well in his own right, and he still comes out with a win. Like I just think that's the definition of a gamer. He gutted it out,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know if you could give a better definition this week of a gamer. So my guy Patrick Mahomes. Uh, Next award, we got Jody's Dog of the Week. Who you got?
Yeah, so this one it was tough. The pool of people to pick from this week not too big. We had 4 teams playing, so it was definitely hard for me to select, especially trying to go around your picks. But this guy, it all makes sense in the grand scheme of the whole weekend. I'm going Christian McCaffrey. The dude was first off the only guy who scored for the Niners. One, you know, two, he was out there doing everything. At least tried at one point. He threw a pass, didn't get completed, but he tried. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, they were just running the ball the whole game, and he finished 15 carries, 84 yards. That touchdown I mentioned, 4 catches, 22 yards. Like I don't know, nothing says more dog of the week than trying to do everything for your team when it doesn't look good for you with no quarterbacks, no nothing, and you're the guy they're relying on.
Yeah. Yeah, tough week for the Niners, tough week for Christian McCaffrey, but he was a dog. I agree.
It had you at one point, bro. You texted me and said, "Hey, there's that comeback story we talked about."
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a tough situation that they ended up seeing in that game. But yeah, dog of the week for that man for sure. And
Love it.
then speaking of that setback I was talking about, what was what caught your eye this week for your setback of the major comeback?
Oh man, minor setback, major comeback. Some might argue this guy didn't have just a minor setback, but I'm gonna go with Joseph Osai. Um, Younger guy for the Bengals. Maybe not a lot of people even knew who he was going into this game, but he obviously, made the play of the game, much talked about. Some people even tried to claim it wasn't a penalty. It was definitely a penalty. Just so everyone knows, just so we're clear on that, it was definitely a penalty. But the big fella played a heck of a game prior to the late hit on Mahomes that set up that game-winning field goal. He had 5 tackles, a TFL, a pass breakup, 2 quarterback hits. I mean, he was chasing Mahomes around all day, showing up in a big game. And even on the penalty, like he was chasing Mahomes out of the pocket with incredible effort, and he
Yeah,
just failed to lay off once Mahomes got out of bounds. And I'm sure no one is more upset about that play than he is with himself. If you saw any of his stuff post game, he looked absolutely
he was
broken.
down on himself for sure.
And I really feel for him. I would bet this is going to be a minor setback in his career for someone who has a really bright future. He's only 22. So I think he'll learn from this. And I just tell him our greatest moments lie in how we respond to our mistakes. So hoping he has a major comeback in 2023, despite, a really crucial and brutal mistake that he made here to end their 2022.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you saw, bro, but after that happened, he might have torn his ACL. I don't know if you saw that. He
Yeah,
his he landed awkward on his leg. He had that bend in there, and instantly you saw him reach for that knee, bro. I hope it wasn't anything crazy. Maybe just like partial tear or something. But if that's the case, I feel bad for the guy for sure.
I don't think he tore anything, but he definitely because nothing came out saying he tore anything. I don't know, maybe he did, but I don't think he actually tore anything. I think he's probably okay. He probably messed up his knee a little bit though on that play. Insult to injury for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so speaking of the same game, what's the no cap hats off award this week?
All right. This is the much talked about play. People want to talk about referees this week. Lot of referee talk. All right. So we got to address it. 3rd and 9, twice for the Chiefs, 2 times.
Yeah.
All right. So during the game, the Chiefs get a 3rd and 9 later in the game. I believe it's in the early fourth quarter. Um, Mahomes throws it to Kelsey, short of the sticks. He gets tackled. Chiefs punt teams coming onto the field. Referees come onto the microphone. Hey, the clock was running. It wasn't supposed to be. We whistled to stop the clock and blow the play dead. No one heard us. That play did not count. We're going 3rd and 9 again.
Yeah. Reset the clock, 10, whatever he said.
And everyone
42.
watching it in real time is like, wait, what happened? Like, the Chiefs get an extra down, like, what is this? And then on the replay from the sky cam, you can see the referee was coming in and blowing it dead
Yeah,
before the play stopped. Arrowhead was just rocking so loud that no one could hear him. So when he came in to stop the play, no one heard him. The play gets off, but because there was a whistle and you can see a referee in the camera shot, like that play does not count. And I think a lot of people were asking, like, well, if they didn't get it blown dead, like why, if they didn't get stopped, why did the play not count? Well, because they can't say if they blow their whistle, then that's it. Like the whistle has been blown. They can't say, well, no one heard it, so it's fair. Like
yeah,
if even if one guy heard it and stopped playing, that's a disadvantage to one way or the other. So they
yeah.
can't allow that play to stand. So they have to come in and say, well, the play was blown dead despite everyone continuing to play. It just didn't count. It never happened. So they get a do-over, essentially,
Mhm.
and Burrow gets sacked. But wait, Eli Apple strikes again. He's caught for holding in the secondary. So
Mahomes.
the Chiefs get another set of downs. Again, okay, from my perspective, with no dog in the fight in this game, I felt like every big call went the Chiefs' way, but I also don't know there were like too many that were actually wrong. Like in this instance, the play was blown dead. You can see it on film.
Yeah,
And it was holding by Eli Apple. Like he didn't need to do it, but he did it. And they called
yeah.
it. Like like it was a hold, so now I will give the Bengals credit though because the Chiefs didn't even score on that drive. But with all that being said, it was one of the more improbable talked about plays, right up there, obviously with the Osai play,
Mhm.
hitting Mahomes late out of bounds. I think if there was any play that was truly disputable, I would say that the Burrow intentional grounding, I think that's probably the one where you could argue it was a bad call because I do think P. Ryan was close
Close
enough to the
enough.
football and Burrow was throwing it in that direction where it landed short of P. Ryan. They normally give the quarterback, especially if he's getting hit on release of the ball, they normally give him some credit if he's throwing it in that direction and he just couldn't quite get it there. And I thought they were probably a little harsh with their ruling on that one. And that might have been the one for sure that went the Chiefs' way that they might have got away with one. But yeah, there was a it did. I have to say, despite my thought that not a whole lot of calls were actually wrong, it did feel like every big call went the Chiefs' way. I don't know, Jody, what do you think?
I mean, I could agree with what you're saying. At the end of the day, those are all the correct calls. It's just, it's tough when you're seeing it kind of lopsided in a way. But I don't want to end this category with all negativity. We did see them make a great call with uh that touchdown that wasn't a touchdown. I forgot who it was thrown to, but ultimately he took the ball to the ground. He bobbled it and then like scooped it back up, in the process of rolling in the end zone. And they called that incomplete on the field, and it was a great call because you couldn't tell until you saw that replay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so now moving on, we got the Strahan Munoz Big Fella Award. Jody, we'll start with you. Who's your big fella this week?
I mean, it's kind of the way I saw this one. It's kind of going back to the AD from a year ago with that sack to win that game, and I went with Chris Jones. I mean, the dude made a big time sack at the end of the game to put it away. They third and long, or yeah, third and long, got the sack, and then fourth down, it was just too far at that point. And he had four tackles, two of them for loss. Obviously, one being that sack, but like I don't know, it just they were talking about it earlier on the broadcast. They're like, oh, look at this guy, blew by the left tackle, made a sack. Flip it on the other side, same thing. And it was just the timing of it. That's what stood out to me for Chris Jones. And big time players make big time plays, big time games. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's where it comes down. That's how he gets this award for this week.
Love it, bro. Love it. I'll go with who he may match up with against in the Super Bowl. Lane Johnson. What a dog. This guy is playing hard on a torn groin muscle, and he's straight
Yeah, I heard about that.
dominating. Like, do you know how hard it is to anchor as an offensive lineman to, like, anchor your body into the ground and take a man coming at you full force when you have a torn groin? Like this guy is unbelievable. He's a freak. I give all the respect in the world to what he's doing. He epitomizes what Eagles fans want in their players. I think he's such a Philly guy in terms of just being tough and nasty. He played against my depoy favorite, Nick Bosa, held him to 0 pressures and 0 sacks. The guy didn't even get a pressure, didn't even get a quarterback hit. He got nothing. He didn't come close to Hurts all day. And then quick shout out to Jordan Mailata on the other side because he also had to block Bosa. They did move Bosa around, so it wasn't all Lane Johnson. But seriously, Lane Johnson is a dog, and those KC pass rushers have their work cut out for them in a couple weeks. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I want to get a quick note for the award. The honorable mention. I'm gonna go Trent Williams, man of the squad, pulls up and just asserts himself. You know what I mean?
Well, he asserted himself with those punches at the end of that game. Trent Williams probably is in the Hall of Fame for guys you would not want to fight. Just to be honest,
no doubt, no doubt.
A Hall of Famer. Like that guy's about as scary as a true heavyweight boxer. I would say, maybe scarier.
I heard stories on Bussin' with the Boys this week, and they said they used to do like a 10-yard dash, I guess, in a way. Who could get off the quickest and run 10 yards the fastest? And I guess it was him versus Deshaun Jackson was the final out of like the whole team. That dude's an animal for sure. No doubt, no one wants to mess
like
with him.
one of the freakiest athletes we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, I agree.
Oh man. All right. Well, do you want to talk about these games a little bit after we gave out our awards to the fellas?
Dude, you forgot the last award.
Oh, yeah, I did blow by it. I see.
Who's cooking? Who's cooking? We got to see who's cooking. And now I'll start this one because normally this is a quarterback award, right? We pretty much only use quarterbacks in this category, like which quarterback's cooking something up, right? And I already gave my shout out to Mahomes in my gamer of the week. So I'm not just gonna, go again with Mahomes. I mean, I could talk about Jalen Hurts, but I gave this award to Jalen Hurts last week, so I don't want to give him back to back,
Yeah.
So my thought with this was, you know what? I'm gonna give props to a receiver instead.
There you go.
Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Mhm.
Huge AFC Championship game performance. Especially after you had so many Chiefs receivers continuing to get hurt. This guy had 6 catches, 116 yards, and a tud. He was cooking the Bengals secondary all game long and became the favorite target for Mahomes as the game went. I thought he came up big in a moment where they really, really needed him to. He was a big play threat for Mahomes, got vertical down the field, and probably played his best game as a Chief this year.
Yeah, that touchdown was sweet, no doubt. He just fit it in that tiny window and he was sitting there. That was a nice catch. Yeah, no, he definitely balled out for the squad. Let's see, for me, this is an easy one. I kind of talked about it earlier when I brought up Christian McCaffrey, but I'm going to just say the 49ers quarterback were not cooking. Granted, there was some unfortunate events. My guy got concussed. My dude blew out his elbow. But look, their stats, they finished 7 for 13, 74 yards. That was our guy, Josh Johnson. Brock Purdy, 4 for 4, 23 yards. If you want, you could throw in Christian McCaffrey, 0 for 1. But no, it's just that it all comes down to just them being hurt, like we seen two different dudes play, both got injured, and it's just they didn't end up throwing the ball the rest of the game, which I talked about earlier, and it's just unfortunate that they have to be the guys who aren't cooking this week, but that's the facts.
It's funny. I just want to let the listeners in on, or the watchers, whichever you're doing right now, in on the behind the scenes. Joey and I, we generally, kind of just just create a document with some shared stuff, ideas going into every show, every episode. And my man under this award just put "You will see." So I was really curious where he was going with this one. I didn't know what this was going to be. I was pleasantly surprised because I had no idea what you were about to say.
Yeah. No,
uh,
I was gonna write 49ers quarterback on there, but then I was like, I'll just say it when we get there. I
okay.
thought it'd be better for you to find out now.
All right. You ready to kind of deep dive review these games?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we'll start with the NFC Championship because I think it was the more boring one, and we may be able to kind of get through it to get to the better game here.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had a final of Philly 31, San Francisco 7. Um, I just kind of wanted to look back at the keys I had for the game and look at how they impacted the game. Key number one I gave everyone was the Eagles' run defense. Thought that would be huge, right? If the 49ers can run the ball, the Eagles may be in some trouble. And if the Eagles can stop the run, the 49ers may be in some trouble. And San Francisco only had 84 rushing yards on 24 carries for an average of 3.4 yards per carry. And the crazy thing was going into the game, we said Philly was giving up 4.6 yards a carry. The Niners were
Yep.
averaging 4.7. The fact that that thing was down around 3.4 is really impressive. Obviously, it's probably slanted from playing a whole quarter and a half without a real quarterback on the field for the Niners, or at least a guy who was threatening to be able to throw the ball. Purdy was playing, but it seemed like he could not throw. So the fact that that was the case probably slants these numbers a little bit. But in general, I did think Philadelphia's run defense played really, really well. Even earlier in the game, there was only one drive where San Francisco scored where it felt like the Niners took control up front and were able to run the football on them. So I thought, Philly's defense did a really good job with that. Jody, what did you think, or what did you see there?
Yeah, no, it was definitely. I mean, like you mentioned, the Brock Purdy not being able to you could stack the box and force them to throw the ball, but it looks like that's not going to happen anytime soon. So that's definitely probably a factor to that, but definitely impressive to bring their average down a whole 1.3 and one basically whole extra yard that gets you that first down if you bang them out 3 yards to carry.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, the front seven was definitely putting in work against the Niners O line for sure.
So my second key was the Niners' ability to create pressure on Jalen Hurts. I said they really needed to because Hurts was and probably I forget what we said, but he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league against, with a clean pocket versus one of the bottom 7 to 8 quarterbacks in the league when he was being pressured. And the Niners only got 1 sack and 2 QB hits on Hurts. I mean, he was basically untouched all day for the most part. The Philly O line was dominant and in pass protection against the Niners front. I thought that matchup was going to be a fun one to watch, and in some aspects it was, but I was surprised at how dominant Philly was. I mean, Philly really dominated both games, or this game on both fronts. Philly was dominant, and if you thought there was a team in the league that can match Philly's personnel up front, I did think it was the 49ers. And the fact that the 49ers got so essentially manhandled both sides of the ball. That's why you see the score being what it was. Yes, the quarterback getting hurt made a huge difference, but even before that, the Eagles were up 21 to
The march
7,
down the field,
and
yeah.
and they were really dominating. So I just thought, the fact that Bosa, who's probably going to be the decoy, right? He's probably going to be the defensive player of the year. This guy had 0 pressures. He didn't have a sack. I mean, he really didn't have great impact on the game. That says a lot about what Philly's got going on up front. That's about as impressive a thing I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, the O line is definitely top three probably in the whole league, and it goes to show they were undefeated for however many games this year, and still continuing to perform. They haven't had many injuries there either. Another key factor there, but yeah, no, they were holding down the line. They were creating them pockets, and led them to that dub.
Yeah. Well, key 3 I had was Brock Purdy and his
Yeah.
ability to play well in this game and whether he would or wouldn't. He got hurt early, so we never really got the answer to this question. It really went somewhat unanswered. I mean, certainly played in Philly's favor as the game went in terms of the quarterback situation at large, but we really didn't get a chance to see Purdy play in these bright lights. I do think he probably makes a slight difference on the scoreboard. I don't know that it changes the impact, the outcome of the game, though. The way this game went, again, the domination that the Eagles had up front, both sides of the ball. But I do think having a healthy Purdy probably makes this game a little bit different than what it turned out to be. And found out he has a torn UCL. Guy's gonna have to have surgery. It looks like gonna be out for 6 months. I mean, that's a tough way to end your season. Not only losing, but losing where you
This
couldn't
late.
be on the field to truly help your team and getting that injury, like you said, this late. That's tough for Purdy, man.
Yeah, no, that Tommy John definitely something. But yeah, him being hurt, I mean, it all it all played out the way it did. We couldn't get no real like film on him this week, which is tough, like you said. And I'm sure we'll see how the offseason goes for the guy because that'll show us who San Fran believes in next year, whether it's him coming back from his injury or Trey Lance coming off his injury. So that'll be interesting to see too.
So just to finish up this game, just kind of thinking takeaways as we start thinking about the Super Bowl. I just keep coming back to it. The Eagles' offensive line is seriously good, man. Like we're talking all time type stuff. We might be watching. I mean, I'm going to say it. We're watching 2 future Hall of Famers with Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson. They're both first team All Pro this year. It's very rare that you see one offensive line have 2 of the
Yeah.
best guys at their position. Not 2 of the best, the 2 best guys at their position. Like Jason Kelsey was the best center this year, and Lane Johnson was the best tackle. Like you're talking 2 guys, 2 of the most important positions, and they're the 2 best guys. Some of the stuff those 2 are doing is just incredible right now. Obviously Lane Johnson playing with the groin. Kelsey, you see him like on the quarterback sneak stuff. He's the guy leading that. They're doing stuff where they're pulling him. Like the fact that you can pull your center and he's that athletic and he can get out in the open and run like that. Then you add in Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, and and Landon Dickerson. Those guys are all above average starters. And so you have that. You just have an elite offensive line. I mean, I think even their backups, Andre Dillard and Cam Jurgens, are capable when they're needed. Even when Lane Johnson was hurt for a little bit of time this year, like those guys could step up. And I just think this might be the best offensive line we've watched in like the last 10 years. I don't even think it's a doubt they're the best offensive line in the league at this point. It might be, like I said, probably one of the better offensive lines we've watched in 10 years. And that was a dominant performance by them. I think that fact makes me probably lean their way going into the Super Bowl. So that was my takeaway here.
Yeah, for me, I didn't know what we were going with, like that statement right there. So I put down just like my notes that I thought were basically how the game turned out over the course of the time. So I basically said the game was over at half. The D line was just being way more physical than the Niners O line, and then the Niners basically threw in the white towel, bro. They resorted to just running the ball. They didn't give no one else really a shot to try and throw the ball, whoever it may be. And so it was just like they were just in the game to finish it out, like a tough situation.
Yeah, the Niners. We were having this conversation. I was talking to one of our friends, but they're hurt every year at this time. It feels like they it seems like they can never get to this point with their best players healthy and ready to play. And playing this late in the year is
That's
part
tough
of that.
too.
That part of that is you are going to have to endure more injuries. But it does seem like the Niners just their best players. Bosa seems to be hurt a lot. Obviously, he had a great year this year. He was healthy all the way through and had a great year. But Fred Warner seems to be another guy who's missing time due to injury. Debo, the way that he plays at his size, Kittle, obviously Jimmy Garoppolo has just unfortunately been plagued by injuries for his entire 49er career. Christian McCaffrey, now that he's a Niner, was healthy all year this year, but like we saw what he was last year when he was really banged up. Trent Williams seems to miss time every year. It just feels like some of their better players seem to be hurt in the biggest moments. And this year, everyone with the exception of Jimmy G was healthy and ready to play in the playoffs. But then you get to this point, and then it's Brock Purdy getting hurt after Jimmy G, right? And Trey
Yeah.
Lance was already hurt earlier in the year. It just seems like the Niners get bit by that injury bug every year. And at a certain point, I saw a stat that says all 6 years that Kyle Shanahan's been the head coach, they've been top 10 in the league in games lost due to injury.
Hey.
So all 6 years, like that's 6 years in a row, man. Like that's as an organization, I wonder if they feel like that is just they've just hit like an unbelievably astronomical anomaly for 6 years, and it's just not been quite right. Or they fired their training staff in 2018 and hired a new staff, and so I wonder if they thought that something with the training staff was going on, but obviously that didn't change much because they've still had the issues that they've had. Or if it's something from an organizational standpoint where they're finding these really valuable players, but they're getting them at a cheaper rate because they are injury prone, and so that's why they have some of these guys. I don't know, right? But it does feel like at some point you have to look inward as an organization, ask yourself why these guys are always hurt, and maybe it's just the fact that they're hurt just as much as everybody else, but it's just their best players that seem to always get hurt, and maybe it is just blind dumb bad luck. I don't know, but it does feel like a long time to continue to have these issues. 6 straight years is a lot.
Yeah, I will say another thing we could consider in this whole topic would be if like running the ball being that like physical type of play style, like similar to like the Titans and Vrabel, because I feel like they also have like some injury bugs over there too, and so I think that's another one we could consider with the whole grand scheme of being hurt for X amount of time late in the season, yada yada yada.
Hmm. I didn't think about that, like play style, but maybe that does factor in. I don't know. So moving on to the AFC Championship, we obviously had a final of Cincinnati 20, Kansas City 23, with the game-winning kick by Harrison Butker. Looking here, first key that I had was Mahomes, right? How healthy was he going to be? How effective would he be?
Yeah.
Well, I think he pretty much answered those questions, right? He showed up when the chips were down, as all great players do in those big game situations. Guy went 29 for 43, 326 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Had 3 carries for 8 yards too with the game-winning scramble. He did lose that one fumble that ultimately did
Where he
not
just
end up costing them
lost
the
it.
game, but that was probably his one really negative play of the day. He was clearly not 100%, but wherever he was, it was good enough for them to win. So I think that key was certainly answered in the Chiefs' favor.
Yeah, no, yeah, that fumble was definitely interesting. It just like he just kind of lost grip on it or something and just slipped out of his hand. But yeah, no, I talked about it in my keys last week where how injured is he really, you know? And I thought that was gonna be huge, but he was doing great out there. You could tell on some throws he was wincing after on like throwing off the back foot, like or even the one he like threw it while he was jumping, he landed awkwardly on the way down. But whatever percentage he was still able to get it done, and that's huge.
Yeah, so key number 2 we had was the Chiefs creating pressure. Were they gonna be able to create pressure on Burrow? Right, we talked about the Bengals O-line. They had this great performance against the Bills, and everyone seemed to be kinda off of that idea that the Bills or that the Bengals O-line was still beat up and still, something that could leave Burrow susceptible, right?
Yeah.
And, man, did the Chiefs create pressure. Like, Steve Spagnuolo was in his bag they were creating one-on-ones in
Yeah.
favorable matchups early and late when it mattered most. As a team, they had 5 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, and individually, Chris Jones was a monster. Obviously, your big fellow of the week.
Mhm.
2 sacks, 5 quarterback hits just by himself. There was this huge narrative going into the game that he had 0 playoff sacks and he wasn't a playoff performer in XYZ. And then this dude just showed up and silenced the doubters. I mean, he had a monster game. And they made Burrow's job so difficult. And Joe Burrow still played fairly well. I know he had 2 picks, but for the most part, I still thought Burrow played as well as he could have considering the amount of pressure he was under all night long.
Yeah.
So this obviously another key factor that went the Chiefs' way.
Yeah, no, it's good to see your keys this time around because what I wrote down from my little lines are very similar, which is kind of funny. I feel like that never really happens. But
Mhm.
but yeah, no, the D line I had right here. They were just making those big plays against the line we talked about before. It's the backups, but at the end of the day, you're still in the league. Like it's not like you're some nobody. You're literally a guy for a
Mhm.
reason. But yeah, so the D line was up killing it up front for sure.
So key number 3, and very similar to key number 3 in the other game, where we didn't really get an answer. Obviously, in both games, my first 2 keys feel to have been pretty spot on in terms of determining winners of the game. In both those instances, the team that won the game, answered those questions better than the other team. But with key number 3, I mean, Purdy getting hurt, we didn't get an answer, but it did go the Eagles' way. In this case, I asked who was going to run the ball better. Neither team. The answer was neither team was able to run the ball at all. It really was not a factor in the game. This is probably the one major miss I had in terms of my keys and questions going into each game. The Bengals only had 71 yards rushing. The Chiefs had 42. Joe Burrow was the leading rusher in the game, for goodness sake. Like, I
And the
had 30
longest
yards
rush in the
rushing.
game too.
Yeah, he had 30 yards rushing on scrambles essentially. Both fronts played really well. Didn't allow the run game to become a deciding factor either way. So that actually was kind of null and void. Not a real thing in terms of determining the winner of the game. And neither team was able to run the ball at all.
Yeah, I had this written down too. I said, going back to that second one real quick, I said Joe Burrow wasn't having the best time when he was scrambling. He would step up in the pocket or like try to break out, and that's when they were getting those pressures on him. But no, I said the Bengals had no run game at the end of the day. I mean, neither did the Chiefs that you mentioned, but that's I'm pretty sure the difference between last week and this week is they're able to run the ball effectively as opposed to just forcing it all on Joe Burrow's arm.
Hmm. My dog is trying to make a guest
A
appearance
little
right now.
cameo.
She's trying to say what's up. So, takeaways from the game, again, going into the Super Bowl and thinking forward. I think Mahomes had the kind of performance I predicted and expected out of him just because he truly is a generational talent. He wasn't perfect, but he was exactly what Kansas City needed in order to win that game. On the other side of the ball, Steve Spagnuolo really impressed with his ability to put his guys in position to make plays. And I'd say credit to Chiefs management because they brought in guys like Chris Jones and Karlaftis and Willie Gay and Frank Clark and Mike Dana and Carlos Dunlap and Nick Bolton, all these guys on the defense that are playmakers, especially in the pass rush. And those dudes showed up early and late and carried the Chiefs through the game, even when, later in the game, Mahomes doesn't have his top 3 receivers. They're really relying more on their defense. That punt that they made where they could have tried a long field goal and they punted instead, they really trusted their defense on that, and it paid off. They're going to need to play that kind of game up front against the Eagles in order to win. I'll just say that right now. So that was my thoughts coming out of it.
Yeah, my thoughts is I'm sure they're just looking forward to those 2 weeks right now. Patty Mahomes, that ankle probably needs that break. We got who was it? Was it Hardman?
Hmm.
He's probably looking forward to some time, getting some rest. It's just ultimately the Chiefs are they're in a good spot coming out of this game for sure. That defense impressed me a lot, and we'll see what they could come up with in these 2 weeks to get better physically, mentally. They're already a good team, but to be the top dog in this game where it's gonna be gritty, in between those lines. We'll see what will happen out.
Yeah, man. So I was thinking we could do some early Super Bowl thoughts here, and in order to do that, I haven't dove into the film in terms of the true matchup yet, but I did go back and watch a good chunk of both championship games with the all 22. And so I wanted to highlight a couple things that I think will make a big difference um, in the games coming up here. So, or in the game, I should say, coming up here. So, first of all, I want to kind of talk about Steve Spagnuolo, what he was doing up front with the Chiefs defense in terms of getting to the Bengals. And then the cool thing is look at the carryover that has with what the 49ers were trying to do with the Eagles. And so we kind of see maybe some shades of what that matchup might look like. So this is the first drive of the game. We have 3rd and 9, and Buffalo or Cincinnati is lined up in a 3-by-1 set, right? They got trips open and they put T. Higgins back here, backside by himself with Chase, Boyd, and then Irwin up top, right? And then they got Samaje Perine in the backfield. So you'll see, and you'll see it better when we go to the behind the tight angle, but the Chiefs are in what we call a wide front. So they're going to be in 2 4-eyes and 2 9s. And I'll explain what that is a little bit more when we get to the other picture. But really, for now, just understand that their D line has essentially vacated the middle and they're really wide, putting a lot of pressure on those guards and tackles. On the back end, they're going to play a quarters look with their corners really showing press, but 2 deep safeties to try and combat any vertical route that you're going to try and see here to try and get to the sticks, obviously. Right. So as we play it, you can see the Bengals are going to run what we call a double mesh concept, where it's going to be a drive concept from this side where you have the under from the outside receiver and then the dig from the inside receiver. But you're also going to get an under from T. Higgins from the backside. So you're going to have 2 unders that kind of cross each other's faces with the dig behind it. And then Irwin also running the deeper dig behind that. So it's a really easy read for Burrow in the middle of the field. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 check down, right? And in most instances, he's probably getting through maybe 3 and then got to get the ball to his check down. So as we keep going, you'll see the Chiefs, kind of how they're matching this up, right? Like I said, they're playing quarters. So it's 3 under, 4 deep. You seeing that, Jody?
My bad. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so we're getting the 3 under, 4 deep quarters look from the Chiefs. Are we seeing that on the screen here?
Oh yeah. My bad. It was my audio went out for me. It was working
Okay,
on
I
my
got
end.
gotcha. I
I'm
just want to
sure
make
you
sure the
saw my
screen.
thing going crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to make sure our screen wasn't cutting out here.
No. It was good.
So as we keep going, you can kind of see how the Chiefs are matching up these routes, right? The corner to the bottom side is going to see T. Higgins going under and pass that off, and now he's going to get depth. The corner to the top side, because he's getting vertical by 1, is running with him. Now the safety to the bottom side, again, he sees under by 1. His eyes go to 3, backside, the next vertical receiver. So you can kind of see how this keeps playing out. These guys all get depth. Now this backer, who's actually a nickel playing in the box here, he kind of runs with the back to the opposite side to try and take Perine away right now. I'm not sure if they had that tagged or if they had something special there. But generally in quarters, he wouldn't run across. So there might have been something a little extra on that. Unless they were playing like a match concept maybe, and in that they had him go across the formation with him. But you can kind of see like Burrow has nowhere to go, right?
Yeah.
He can't get it over Nick Bolton, and he's got a safety there on Boyd. Irwin he's got a back underneath and a corner over the top. Chase is running underneath the backer, but he's running right to the opposite side corner. Higgins is being swallowed up right now. The only guy he might have been able to get it to is Perine, but by the time he actually sees that, right, look what's happening. He's getting tackled in the backfield. Now it's a sack. and relentless effort from the Chiefs front. I mean, love to see that. So, kind of going from the behind angle, this is what I was talking about, where the Chiefs are getting in these 4 eyes and 9. So, the 9, right, is what Frank Clark, the defensive end, is. He's in a ghost 9. So, generally, what we would say is, and I don't know if I've explained this before, but if we're head up on offensive lineman, that's an even number. So it's a 0 on the center, a 2 on top of the guard, a 4 on top of the tackle. It would be a 6 on top of the tight end. So there is no tight end here, right? So outside shade of him, generally we call a 9. So because there's no tight end, it's a ghost 9. Odd numbers are inside shades or outside shades, or eyes are inside shades, right? So you have a 1, which is outside shade either side of the center. A 2-eye would be inside shade of the guard. A 4-eye would be inside shade of the tackle, right? 3 would be outside shade of the guard. 5 would be outside shade of the tackle. Making sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So we have these guys are both inside shade on these tackles. So you have what we call 4 eyes. So they're in 2 4 eyes and 2 9s. So when you do that, what's left open is just the entire middle. Everything from guard to center is wide open. But why this puts so much pressure on the Bengals is because this tackle is going to have to kick wide to that 9, and this guard is going to have to kick wide to that 4-eye. And same thing on the other side. So when you're making these guys work so hard, now the center can't double either way either. So now you're giving your guys a two-way go, and you're forcing these offensive linemen to really kick step to you. So now it's really making these guys work. You have a two-way go, and you're guaranteeing yourself a one-on-one. So all you're asking is one of these 4 guys to win that one-on-one matchup. So as we play it, you can see up front, okay, he's trying to get through his progressions, and right as he was getting there, the pocket starts collapsing. That's Mike Dana who gets the initial contact. Frank Clark just keeps being relentless and ends up with the actual sack. Really good team defense by the Chiefs. So we come back, all right? Next possession, it's 2nd and 7. The Bengals are in a 2-by-2 look with the tight ends. We call it deuce, right? They got the tight end and T. Higgins to the top of the screen with Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd to the bottom. Joe Mixon in the backfield set to the 2 receivers. Now the Chiefs are playing a little overload up here, and so they're going to stack the line of scrimmage with 6 guys on the line of scrimmage, but they're going to drop one out and run a 5-man pressure and play hot coverage behind it, right? So your hot coverage, the corners are going to read 2-1. The safeties are going to read 2-1, and then both of the remaining underneath defenders, which are going to end up being this guy and this guy, right? The backer and the nickel are both going to relate to and pass off. We call them deep hooks, and they're going to relate and pass off the number 2s as they go. So you'll see he's going to pass off the under to get underneath the dig. He'll let the dig go to play the under. And then the one thing that's going to come to the flat late is the back. And that's going to be the one outlet that Burrow might have had he been able to see it. But again, the Chiefs are bringing 5 this time. So we let it go, right? Here you go. We're running with the under. I've got the dig. Now, because I see everything, I can flip, and we double both the verticals with the corners and the safeties. The one guy who might have been open here again was Joe Mixon.
Down.
Yep, but he just can't get it to him, Burrow. It just happens too fast, and Burrow can't get there. So again, we see it from the behind look. Now, little different front. Now they're in like a true over front, right? With a 6 technique head up on the tight end, but then they're also going to overload it with the 2 backers walked up, one in the A gap and one in that 9 look outside the tight end. You'll see what happens. They're going to drop him, but they're going to bring him and Chris Jones and here and Dunlap off that opposite edge. So you're guaranteeing it again. They have a 5-man protection. You're bringing 5. You are guaranteeing all one-on-ones, and you're overloading essentially what amounts to looking like 4 to one side, and then you're going to drop one out. So it occupies the center for a second, and then he drops out. So now you can see,
Mhm.
okay, everyone's getting one-on-one. They try and double Chris Jones. Willie Gay beats his one-on-one, and Frank Clark is
Mhm.
unblocked now because they're doubling Chris Jones because if you rewind it back,
Is
Frank
that
Clark
Hurst
was
or
was
who is
over
it?
Hurst, the tight end.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Didn't
so
chip
he's
him.
yeah, I think he was supposed to. He didn't quite do it, but he made him move so far outside, and now he's kinda late, so the protection doesn't pick him up, and now he's free, and you can see Willie Gay gets to him, and Frank Clark retraces back over the top. You see he kinda comes back over. As Willie Gay makes him step up, Frank Clark is free. Boom, boom. Those 2 combine for the sack. Each get credit for a half sack there. So now the next play, 3rd and 18. You'll see the Bengals know they're like, okay, we've been sacked on each of our first 2 drives already. We're just trying to get the ball out to one of our playmakers' hands. They don't even run vertical routes here. They run short of the sticks. They're just trying to get the ball to one of their guys and see if they can go get some yak, get something positive, right? I mean, they're in 3rd and 18. So, and they know they're facing pressure. But Jody, look at the front. It's you see again, right? It's
Yeah.
that wide front again, and you're going to get a quarters or a variation of quarters we call like match palms playing behind it. And again, with that wide front, and they're just going to bring 4 now. And again, you'll see what happens. So they're running these short routes, a little route concept we call Vegas with the double slant, and then Nevada with the slant and the out route up top. And then Ryan's just going to sit over the ball right now as the outlet for Burrow. And Burrow can't even get the ball out right now to his guys, right? Because now you're only bringing 4 and you're playing coverage, right? So again, this is kind of that quarters look, 2 high safeties with the corners both reading 2-1. The Bengals again are in deuce with Hayden Hurston at tight end, uh, Boyd and Chase to the bottom, Higgins and Hurst to the top. You see what they run. They're just trying to get Burrow an easy completion. But because they're dropping these guys in coverage, look, everything is covered. Covered, covered. Can't throw there. He's coming off to that one, right? So they're playing palms for sure up top because the backer's going to take the slant, the corner plays the flat, safety's free. On the bottom, it looks like they're probably playing palms as well, but they just get the double slant concept so they can both run with it. Nick Bolton, the backer, is going to relate to 3, which is the back right here. And again, Burrow just has nowhere to throw, and by the time he can even look at it, he's just getting sacked. I mean, this is great defensive play calling, scheming to get guys one-on-ones, taking things away from Burrow right now. This is beautiful football. And this time it's just Chris Jones. He just again, see how them being so wide and that those 4 eyes and nines that how the center can't really double, right? You see how he's just kind of looking around like I can't get
Yeah.
all the way there to Chris Jones. Like I can't double right now. Chris Jones takes that outside path, boom, just beats the guard right now, beats him like a drum. And by the time Burrow can even get to Ryan, the check down, Chris Jones is already there. Uh, just a masterclass of creating one-on-ones. I thought that game from Spags was he was truly I think I tweeted Spags is in his bag, right? I mean,
Something like that, yeah, I seen that.
it was really impressive. So I go and I say all that to then show you the Eagles offensive line and how they handled similar looks from the 49ers. So here you'll see the Eagles are an empty. They're just going to run a classic slot fade, what we call Heem concept with the you're going to see a bunch of hitches and then a slot fade and then the outside fade on the other side. So they're an empty. They're going to run the slot fade with I believe that's Quez Watkins at the bottom, and then at the top that's AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on the same side, and at the bottom it's Quez Watkins with uh, Goddard and number 14, whose name I'm blanking on right now. Really good player, actually. I really like him, and I'm completely blanking his name. But those 3 are set to the bottom by themselves. So you see the Niners are in what we call that they're in that wide front, but they've walked up both backers into the A gaps as well. So now they have 6 on the line of scrimmage, and they're going to play a version of cover 3-4 under 3 deep, and you'll see it here. The corners are both playing vertical. The safety to the field to the 2 receiver side, he's going to play in the middle of the field. Then they're going to have Tufunga drop in the curl. Both backers, Fred Warner's going to drop into the curl. Dre Greenlaw is going to drop to the flat, and then Jimmy Ward is the other flat defender over here. So you can see kind of how they're going to play this 4 under 3 deep. They're going to drop guys out and drop guys down. Really fun look with the simulated pressure look up front. But eventually they're going to get into that same front the Chiefs were in, that wide front. And I just showed
Yeah.
you how many problems that gave the Bengals, right? Look at the Eagles. Look at the clean pocket that they're giving Jalen Hurts.
Bro, my guy right there was just standing straight up. He beat his guy.
Just, I mean,
Right here, 69. That dude, he's just standing there. He was just overpowering his defender.
look at him. That's Landon Dickerson, right? He's winning his matchup. That's Jordan Mailata. He's winning his matchup. Lane Johnson dominating Bosa. Isaac Siamalu winning with Armstead, and eventually Kelsey just says, "Okay, I'm going to try and find work." Right? Remember I said how hard it was for the center, and Kelsey trying to just gets himself over there, finds work, and then just give Hurts a clean pocket. And when you give Hurts a clean pocket, that's all he needs, man. When you give Hurts a clean pocket, he's a really, really good quarterback, and he'll find it.
Bro, I
So
didn't notice how low he was in his stance right there. That's wild. And Shoddy?
yeah, it hurts how low he gets on to take a snap. I
Yeah.
saw that too. I was noticing that when I was going back over the film. But again, if anyone has the personnel to do what the Chiefs were doing, it's the Niners, and the Niners were not getting it done against this Eagles O-line. So there you go. It's a completion, but they're short of the sticks, right? So now the very next play, this is 4th and 3. So the Eagles come out and empty again. This time, same look, right? But this time they're going to put Goddard and AJ Brown to the top of the screen together, and then they're going to put Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins to the bottom. They've got my man 14 over here who's going to come in
Gainwell.
motion. Say that again.
Gainwell? Kenneth Gainwell?
Gainwell. Yeah, Kenneth Gainwell. Thank you.
That's what I thought it was, but I
Yep.
had to double check because
Yep.
that empty look threw me off. I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
14 just
So
seems like a wild number for the running back.
yeah, so it was Gainwell, and so they bring Gainwell, and he's really good in catching the ball out of the backfield. So they love running empty with him. So they motion him across. They're going to run a little what we call Omaha concept. So Devontae Smith's going to run the flat. Quez Watkins running the vertical. Gainwell's going to run the flat with AJ Brown in the vertical, and then they're just going to bring Goddard to the middle of the field, running like the controlled slant semi dig here. But again, the Niners are in that wide front. They're in that's the flavor of the month of defense right now is that wide front. People love that because again, it creates those one-on-ones for those guys. So, D'Amico Ryans loved it just as much as Spags for the same reasons. Now you'll see the Niners are just in cover one with a spy. So I'm manned up, I'm manned up, I'm manned up, I'm manned up, I'm manned up. I'm going to stay in the middle of the field and spy, play the low hole, spy Jalen Hurts if he gets out of the pocket, right? Because we're leaving the middle of the field so wide open. So we got to keep somebody in the middle of the field in case he tries to scramble and leave. And then Tufunga is the middle of the field player, right? Okay, so you see how it goes. They get great jams, great hands. There's nothing for Gainwell and Goddard. They got those guys smoked, right? Up top, Charvarius Ward is taking away AJ Brown. He's actually in phase, looks really good. Down to the bottom, that's Jimmy Ward playing on Devontae Smith. He looks good too. And then at the very bottom on Quez Watkins, you have another favorable matchup. So this look right now for the Niners looks good. They're still not quite creating the pressure that you want. And Jalen Hurts feels that, right? So Jalen Hurts bails. This is where he just becomes a playmaker. Did he need to bail the pocket? Probably not. But he felt like, okay, nobody's open. I'm going to bail and create and get my guys in the scramble drill. And then he can go do that.
Devontae open.
Devontae
It's
Smith
funny,
open.
before you said that he was scrambling to get his guys open, I was like, why is he running out the pocket? And then once you let the play develop a little more, I was like, oh, because no one's open.
Yep, nobody's open, so he's not seeing it right now. He's okay, covered. Let me bail and see if I can create. And that's where having that at quarterback is just different, man. Like that's the difference between having a Jalen Hurts and having a guy who can't do that. I don't know. I don't want to, talk mess on any guys right now. I
Ryan
can't think of
Tannehill,
anybody. Okay, and even Tannehill can do some of that, I think. But yes,
not to
if
the
you don't
same,
have that,
yeah.
You don't have a guy who's at that level. Yes, it's hard for him to create, but it's just so funny that the Niners are in that same look, the four eyes and nines, right? You see it? It's the
Yeah,
same look that the Chiefs were just giving the Bengals, all kinds of trouble with, and instead, the Niners even run a game with it. Remember, we talked about their
yeah.
games all season? They even run a little game with Arik Armstead and
They read it like a
Bosa.
book.
But look at that. Siamalu and Lane Johnson just pass it off, no big deal. Kelsey's like, "Oh, Bosa, you wanna come in here and get some? Come get some." Like, you're not getting anything right now. Mailata's over there dominating Ibukam. Landon Dickerson's dominating his matchup. They're just not the Niners could not. I was shocked at the inability of the 49ers to create pressure when they did it all year long. And then this is just what can you say? I mean, Hurts just goes and makes that play.
Yeah.
Could I tell, the safety on this, to get more depth? I could, right? Because it's a one high safety look. I could tell him get more depth, but man, this is 4th and 3. So he was playing, he's kind of trying to play the play here and okay, let me bounce my feet, see if I can jump something. Okay, I feel scramble. And he tries to get depth and just he's not going to get there. Jimmy Ward, what can I tell to Jimmy Ward? I mean, that's Devontae Smith making a play. It's Jalen Hurts making a play. So from that standpoint, I think the 49ers, it wasn't that they were awful. I just think the Eagles are that good, and so when I look at the film early on and I look at what the Eagles were able to do up front, even with what the Chiefs did to the Bengals, my early lean in the Super Bowl is probably Philly because I just think they have advantages on both fronts and the game is still won in the trenches. I throw in the caveat that Mahomes is so good, he does narrow that gap and makes this game a toss up. And I'm not sure the last Super Bowl I went into where I was like this conflicted on who I thought would win. Most of the time I have a pretty like, okay, I think this team. And I've kind of gone back and forth on it with this just because Mahomes is so good and I just don't feel great picking against him. But it feels like Philly hasn't really been tested this season. Feels like KC's been through a lot of adversity in the playoffs. Both teams have been here at least once since 2018. So there are a lot of Super Bowl veterans on both rosters. Uh, yeah, but as I look at more of this film, my early lean is probably Philly because of their depth and their domination on the offensive and defensive lines of scrimmage. So that's what I would tell you.
Yeah, that's what I had written down too. Just I literally have written down the Eagles just simply on them being more healthy than the Chiefs. At the end of the day, the Chiefs are still a great team, no doubt, but they're gonna need these 2 weeks to do something good for them and get some of those players back, get them back to full speed, and that's gonna be a dogfight either way. I honestly I don't care who wins at the end of the day. It's gonna be a great game. At least we can hope because we don't want to see
Hmm.
nothing. No, we don't want to see a blowout for the Super Bowl.
No.
But I'm leaning Philly as well as I know.
Yeah. And I think next week we'll do a position by position.
Who's
Who do
better
we
is
think
where?
has the advantage? Yeah,
Yeah.
and really deep dive it and come up with some final score predictions and some thoughts and look at some keys. But yeah, early on, I think we're both kind of thinking about it the same way right now. It's just up front, Philly has some major advantages. But maybe as we go through the rest of the rosters, think some other things out, think about some schematic choices that both teams will make. Maybe we'll feel differently by this time next week. But with that being said, Jody, I think it's your turn. Banger of the week, bro.
Yeah, so I was struggling with trying to find a song. Like there's songs I like that I was listening to all day. Like I could say this one, could say that one. But what it comes down to is this song is a banger now, but it was also a banger like 20 years ago.
Oh,
Long
okay.
story short, that means it was basically recreated in recent times. So I'm going Creepin', The Weekend, 21 Savage with Metro Boomin on the track.
Okay.
And the song I was talking about before was I Don't Want to Know. That's the original song that's basically copying. And I was talking to a buddy like 2 weeks ago. He told me his girl did not know that I Don't Want to Know was the original song. Like, she didn't know it existed. and that threw me off. I was like, "How do you not know that song? Like, you only know this new one from The Weeknd, and you think that's good? Like, okay, you don't know nothing."
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's
Well,
my banger of the
educate the
week.
people, Jody. Educate the
Yeah,
people.
you
That's why
you
we're
gotta
here.
know where your samples come from. They're always out there.
Yeah. All right, bro. Well, successful week. Hopefully, enjoy the weekend off from watching football and get ourselves prepared for one more week of football. That's all we got.
Yeah,
That's all we
it's
got
tough.
left.
Tough time. But US is it the USFL? Is that coming back? Um
I don't know if I don't know if I can deep dive USFL
No,
games. I
not at
don't
all,
know.
not at all,
We'll
but, there's still football. It's not the
it is
same
still football.
same caliber, but it's there.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, you know what the deal is.
Yeah, we got our guy Ray Ray coming on the track, spitting some lyrics for y'all, taking us out, you know what I mean?